Today is March the 31st, 2021. This is the Service Hero Show, 365 Days of Awesome. Celebrate success through service. My name is Tamara Hunter, and I am your host. This is the show where we share inspiring stories of those that are inspiring others. So let's do this. We have an inspiring story today. Today is March the 31st. As I announced at the beginning of this show, it is the last day of Women's History Month, a month that we have been celebrating here at the show with many amazing women and men that are today making history. That today it is the present, yet today it is tomorrow's history. So with that, I am also going to recognize those that are coming to the show. Helene Wilson, so glad that you're here. One of our ambassadors for Chemo Buddies for Life, the nonprofit that this show supports. We are happy that you're here with us, my dear. And we have Caroline Berzins, who is the production assistant here with the Service Hero Show and senior ambassador of the nonprofit, plus so much more. And she is letting us know that, yes, we are live on the E360 TV platform. What does that mean? Well, it means you can take us anywhere you want to go on demand. And there is a live area that you can find every single time you want to watch us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. In fact, here's a little explanation of how to find us. And thank you for that. We love it that you are welcoming everyone. Helene, thank you so very much. And she's always looking for a purple pen, guys. Always. All right. So we have Barbara J Hopkinson. And you know what? We always have something fun to kind of introduce our people one way or another. And this is a very special show. And so actually, we are going to use some of her clip, one of her videos, to help explain how special this show is and what she is doing for her inspiring story.
I'm Barbara J Hopkinson, President and Executive Director of A Butterfly's Journey to a New Normal, a nonprofit helping grievers. The name of my organization, A Butterfly's Journey to a New Normal, the first part of that was the title of my first book is A Butterfly's Journey. And it's because it was written about my journey and the fact that butterflies are an international symbol of transition. I think of them, and in this context, as being a transition of our children from a physical to a spiritual life, and ourselves, their parents and their families, transition from a life with them to a new life without them. And that's where, when I added the second part of To a New Normal, that's really what it's about. Things will never be the same, but you can be happy again, and you can find a new normal, and that's what our children want for us. You can find out more about the organization and the work we do at abutterfliesjourney.org.
So you know about A Butterfly Journey. You have experienced that type of loss, haven't you?
Yes, I've actually lost 3 children and a husband and sight in one eye. So I've been through a lot of different kinds of loss, plus the stuff that people always go through with financial job, things like that.
Uh-huh.
Well,
3 children.
mm.
3 children. 3 boys, right?
Yes. Well, the first loss was a miscarriage. I don't know the gender of that.
Right.
And then I had 2 healthy boys. And then my third son, when they were 6 and 4, my third son, Robbie, was full-term stillborn. And then my 2 boys, Brent and Brad, grew up to be great young men. And Brent died in a motorcycle accident at age 21. So
Every mother, father, brother, anyone that's out there right now, probably their stomach just went, because how incredibly hard to have lost 3 out of 4 of your children.
mm-hmm.
And then you mentioned your husband.
Yeah. So my first husband actually left a year after our son died for a younger woman. So my 30-year marriage fell apart. And then fortunately, I met this wonderful guy. Jim was my second husband. And we were married for 11 and a half years. And he died suddenly of a widowmaker heart attack on his way to work 3 years ago.
And 3 years ago, here you two are.
Oh, I love that shot.
Yeah, I can't even tell you how much I love this picture.
Take nothing for granted.
Yeah, take nothing for granted. And
True.
I actually went and looked up his obituary because I'm thinking, oh my goodness. Okay, I knew who you had mentioned. I saw his picture, and then I'm looking at this picture and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, how I don't even know the words to put here.
We took it 2 years before he died, not knowing. So one of the things that my nonprofit does is called Faces of Resilience. They're mobile photo shoots that I do at grief events, and I've done some locally. And he was here when I did a couple locally, and he got involved, and we came up with that saying, again, these things are related for people to express themselves, open expression around grief, loss, and love. And then I found that I happened to stumble on that photo the night he died, which blew my mind.
The night he died, you stumbled upon it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I remember taking it 2 years earlier. Yeah.
How absolutely incredible. You mentioned the pictures that you've been taking.
Yeah.
Now you have all of the writing on the skin, and then it's on a black background. We're going to play a video clip right now, and then we're going to go deep into this. We're going to talk about this because this, I can tell you guys right now, I am absolutely so inspired by this story. And before I even made the connection, it's crazy how things work. Before I made the connection, I realized yesterday that today is 2 years ago that I did an online celebration of life for our first senior ambassador within the nonprofit. Many of you know who that is, Sharon Nichols Ward. And it is exactly 2 years ago today that we celebrated her life and the cause, our cause. And here we're doing this show today, and we had scheduled it, and I had not thought about it. Yeah. And so I want to dedicate this show for all of those that are going to be represented in this video and what we're going to be talking about for this hour, to all of those that have been served by this nonprofit that Barbara is over and her causes. I also want to dedicate it to Sharon Nichols Ward.
Nice.
I am not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, gonna send a flood, gonna drown him out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. Another round of bullets, it's my skin. Well, fire away, 'cause today I won't let the flames in. We are bursting through the barricades and reaching for the sun. That's what we become. I won't let them break me down. I know that there's a place for us. Oh, we are going in. Gonna cut me down. I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be. This is me. Here I come. This is me. I'm gonna send a flood. This is me.
Everything not to cry. I mean,
I
how
love
do you
that
watch
video.
it and not cry?
Oh, it's funny. I think I always turn up just a little bit then, because I remember I've talked with all these people. I've written. I'm the one that's writing on their skin. I'm hearing their stories, and I just love it. I make so many connections, and their stories are unbelievable. And Mitch Carmody, who did that video, because what I did is I was putting collages of all the different photo shoots I did one year, and he saw that I was posting the collages. And he saw it, and he put that together for me. It's Mitch Carmody, Heartlight Studios, and he's just amazing. I'm so grateful. I love that video.
It's beautiful. Okay. One of the people in there, I kept looking at it, and I'm thinking, is that Helen Redding? It looks so much like her. One of the women in there. Okay,
I'm not sure.
You would
I don't remember all
know.
the names. Yeah, well, I don't remember all the names. I just remember their stories.
Okay, yeah, okay, no worries, no
Well,
worries. I mean, if anybody else saw it, like, okay, I had to ask. Okay, no worries.
You mean the celebrity? I don't think the celebrity wasn't in there. No, she wasn't. That wasn't her.
Yeah, because it just it looked like her, and so then
fine.
the way that he did that, it was like smart. Okay, beautiful, such a beautiful video. Okay, so
thank you.
A Butterfly's Journey.
Yeah,
butterflies. You started this. You wrote a book, and the book was a cathartic exercise, you could say, right?
Yes, of course.
Here,
Yes.
here you are, you write this book, A Butterfly's Journey. And why don't we go into why a butterfly?
Okay. Most grief organizations have a butterfly tied to them somewhere because it's an international symbol of transition. So, and it just struck me. Also, the butterfly that's on that cover, that's actually from a digital image, a picture I took myself about a month after my oldest son died. That butterfly showed up on my deck, and my son and his friend were home, my Brad and Patrick noticed it, and he brought it in the house, and we actually handed it in between us. It allowed us to hand it to each other and take pictures, blow on its wings. It would just open its wings so we could take better pictures for like half an hour, and it never tried to get away. So we eventually put it back out on the deck, and it eventually flew away. But that was a month after he died. And so that felt like a symbol. And then actually, as part of my grief, I actually went to a medium, and she gave me the title. She told me that that's the title it should be. And it tied in because butterflies are everywhere in the grief world, because the amazing transition that's made from caterpillar to pupa to butterfly is really unparalleled. True.
Yeah. And so a butterfly's journey. You write the book, and you also are educated in grief counseling, correct?
Yes, I've been certified, and I have an advanced certification in a methodology called Grief Recovery Method. And that was written by a bereaved dad. And now his son is the CEO of Grief Recovery Institute, but it's been used for 40 years globally on 6 continents. And so a couple of years ago, it became evidence-based, which means it's proven. It's the only evidence-based methodology for grief. And so I do online or in-person classes, one-on-one or group, and it covers 43 kinds of loss. It covers, not just death of people, but relationships, pets, loss of finance, all different kinds of things. And it's action-based and finite. It's a 7 or 8 week class, depending on if it's one-on-one or a group. So it's not endless.
And our pets are just as much, people call them our fur babies, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
There's another one here. This one here, you actually have a book also, Surviving Loss.
Yes. And I got to say, yes. So, and of course I've lost pets like everybody, but this is Holly. Okay. So when her parents came in and brought her to one of my photo shoots as a service dog, she was so beautiful. I took their picture, then I took a picture with them. And then I said, can I take a picture of just the dog? And they put her, their daughter that they lost, her picture on Polly's collar. And so that, I love this. So we do Faces of Resilience photos like this with pets and family and even, just by themselves. And then one of the things, a couple of the books, I co-authored a couple of the grief diaries founded by Linda Fell. And one of them was Surviving Pet Loss. Yeah.
Okay. So that's a co-written book. So, yes. All right. So we've already established this picture. Beautiful. I love this. Take nothing for granted. And I'm getting teared up even now thinking about this picture. Now, how tall?
My husband Jim was 6'9".
6'9".
Yeah, he was a great guy. He was as nice as he was tall. Yeah.
Nice. Wonderful. And so here's some of your different types of looks of some of the pictures that you've taken. Now you write on their skin. Now, how is it that these words are chosen?
Oh, they have to choose it. I don't want me putting words in anybody's mouth. Oh, I love this one. That's another good friend of mine who's a bereaved mom too. And my daughter-in-law, who was my first photographer, J Hopkinson, actually suggested that and took this photo. So when somebody comes to the photo shoot, yes, they think of something, but I also have I have an iPad which is flipping through examples. I have a Faces of Resilience book. I have a big banner. So there's lots of examples for them to think of things. And if they can't, then I just ask them leading questions until they can come up with something. They'll come across something that's meaningful to them. And then I write it on their skin with washable magic marker. so it washes right off with a baby wipe afterwards.
Okay.
And some of them want to leave it on. They leave it on for a day or two. It's interesting. Yeah, for the day of the event anyway. And then so it's cathartic for them to do it because it's visceral, because you're touching. And then we actually professionally edit the photos and send them the photos so that that is a catalyst for them to talk about their grief. So it's all about open expression of grief, loss, and love, which is the most healing thing you can do for grief.
Right. So you actually have done a series of clips of different pictures that you've taken. You mention a little bit about the person, and then you go into a teaching moment. And I have some of these loaded because I want to go into this right now and be able to share with everyone what it is that you do.
Yeah, because the book, right? And there's a book with all kinds of photos in here too. Yes, right.
I love it. Well,
book.
Okay, so guys,
I want to do a series of those. Yeah, go ahead,
guys. If you know of anybody right now that has, and it's been an interesting journey for me this morning, because when I realized about Sharon Nichols Ward. And so in going through all of this, I was like, I have been a student today. And there are many people out there right now, especially because of COVID, that have been mourning or grieving in one way or another. It may be for a person, it may be for a pet, it may be for the loss of a job, a company,
right.
A significant other, whatever it may be, right? And all of what we're going to be going through right now, oh my, these priceless service hero material completely. So we're going to start with one. Oh, you're welcome. Absolutely. We're going to start with one right now that, let's see here. Let's see if I can find this one. Okay. We're going to start with this one right here. Because go ahead.
You have completely hit on my passion. These photos are my passion. I love it. I actually got to take them international in 2019. I've done them all over the U.S. since 2015, but in 2019 we got to Canada, the Caribbean, and London. And I've got 8 languages so far in the writings. So I'm really hoping to take it even further.
I noticed the one that the gentleman had his arms up, and it looked as though it was some kind of a
Hebrew.
Okay.
It was a woman. It was Hebrew. Yeah.
Oh, it is a woman. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go with one of them.
This is my son Brad and me. We chose to heal after losing both Brad's younger and older brothers. You can imagine we went through a period of time that was extremely difficult and incurred massive changes in our lives. My name is Barbara J Hopkinson of A Butterfly's Journey to a New Normal. We help individuals and families struggling with grief to find a new normal after experiencing the loss of a child, sibling, or other traumatic loss. The fact that you are experiencing something that you never thought would happen is exactly why it is normal to feel like Brad and I were feeling. And this is why we suggest memories and keepsakes as a way to help heal. There are multiple ways they can help you with grief. We all love to have something that belonged to the loved one we lost. Even though it may be sad, it is comforting to share memories with others who knew your loved one. We suggest that you encourage positive and funny stories from others about the ones you lost. It provides some much needed stress relief, even in the early memorial ceremonies. Some suggestions regarding keepsakes. Give yourself time before tackling the tough job of going through your loved one's belongings, unless you need to move them. If so, get help and consider that you can put them in storage until you are ready. Take your time and really consider what you want to keep. If possible, share some belongings with others in the family and close friends. They'll appreciate it. Know that you should not feel obligated to keep everything. Don't feel guilty about getting rid of things that no one wants or that you have no reason to keep. Keepsakes are comforting and memories are powerful. They were for us as we chose to heal.
You were too much. You really went digging. I didn't give you any of this stuff.
I told you I was busy.
Really? Wow. I'm blown away.
And so cover of your poem book has a butterfly on it on a beach. I did not know that. She's giving some information today, Caroline. Ooh, I'm excited. And Dr. Ward, so glad
Hi,
you're here,
Randy.
Dr. Randy. All right, so I have to say, let's see, Barb, dear friend, yes. Oh, yes.
Thank you, Randy. Hugs to you too.
Yes, and your words in that particular clip, the one about memories and keepsakes. You know, it's interesting how sometimes the service hero shows inspiring stories of those inspiring others. There's timing in many situations, and not only was it 2 years ago that we were celebrating the life of our senior ambassador, Sharon Nichols Ward. I currently am in the process of having to box up everything and move out of state. Where I film, this room was where my mother gained her wings. The why behind the why of the nonprofit. It's okay. However, you're giving permission. Your clip, this clip right here, was what I needed to hear because I have a closet that I still haven't really touched because I hadn't been able to. And so the idea of going in and finally, you know, taking care of some, I was able to distribute to like my sibling and such things like that. What in the very beginning. However, you know, some simple things were things that have been difficult to let go of. Yet it's time. I'm moving. It's time to move on. And one thing you shared either in this clip or another clip we're going to be listening to is you allowed also for the fact that you're not letting go of the person. You're not letting go of the memory.
No.
And let's talk about that because I'm sure I'm not the only one.
Yeah, that person is still with you in spirit. It's been proven to me over and over. And when I say a butterfly's journey, that was my journey to figure out whether or not my son Brent's spirit continued. And I went through a lot, and I have more than proven it to myself that all of our spirits continue. So that's where the person is, you know, and all of us visit the grave. But if you can't, that's okay because they really are not there, right? They're not there. They're with you. They're with you in spirit. And if you're lucky, you might get a sign and really feel it. But, you know, recognize stuff. Yeah. No, they want you to move on, to heal, to be happy. They don't, I don't think, care about those things that you're worried about so much. You know what I mean? So keep a representative thing. Sometimes it feels good to donate the things that are useful. Right. To a nonprofit, because then at least somebody else is getting, and they kind of live on a little, almost like like when people do organ donation, but you know, on a small scale, with you're giving your things away and they're getting reused. You know? Right, exactly, and there is a lot of value in that. In fact, you talk about giving your time and such things in another clip we're going to share right now.
This is Michelle. She chose to heal after losing her brother to an accident and after surviving a tough battle with breast cancer while mothering a toddler and an infant. You can imagine Michelle went through periods of time that were both sad and scary. My name is Barbara J. Hopkinson of A Butterfly's Journey to a New Normal. We help individuals and families struggling with grief to find a new normal after experiencing the loss of a sibling, child, or other early loss. The fact that you are experiencing something that you never thought would happen is exactly why it's normal to feel like Michelle was feeling, and this is why we suggest reaching out to help others in order to help you heal. After the loss of a loved one, when you choose something you care about to help others, it helps you in multiple ways. First, you get to focus off yourself and your pain and shift it to making a positive difference in the world. Second, it makes you feel good, and that is healing. Third, it reminds you to be grateful, especially when you see how grateful others are for your help. We can help you find some options that fit your situation. Some suggestions on getting started. Make a list of things you are passionate about or where you want to make a difference. They don't have to be grief-related. Select 2 or 3 and look into options for those areas in more detail. Choose one to start and get involved with your time, not just your money. Helping others has a surprisingly powerful healing impact. It did for Michelle as she chose to heal.
How did you come up with this idea of marrying the passion project, your pictures, the photos, and we have a few more I want to share. This is your son, of course.
Yeah.
And I miss you. I mean, how can
that was at my first photo shoot, and I came and I said, I really want you to be part of it. And he came, but he has tattoos all over his arms. He said, Mom, where am I going to write anything? And I said, I don't know. My daughter-in-law was the first photographer. I said, figure it out, write something on your face, your hand, something. And that's what they came up with. And it turned out to be so powerful because it says it all in a very short, succinct way. And the interesting thing is he's on the cover of my first book, Faces of Resilience, but I sent the publisher 200 photos. She picked his photo for the cover, and my daughter-in-law's hands are on the back, the photographer. She had no idea they were connected to me. She knew nothing about them. I didn't tell her anything. And she picked them for the cover. So there's all kinds of universe stuff going on.
Oh, yeah. I'm having major chills throughout my body right now. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's Ellie Blue Media. Linda Fell. But anyway, it's crazy. And I love that. I had a videographer that I took some classes with, and then he did some videos for me, Brandy Sales. And we started talking about trying to do tip videos, and I told him about the photos, and he actually came up with the idea to marry the two and edited those for me. Yeah, it's great.
Brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. Because each one, and guys, her YouTube is full of these. I only picked a few of them because I knew we would need to talk, and we would, we only have an hour. So, I got lost in them.
Oh, isn't that cool?
There's such great nuggets. Now, the information
I did 18
tips,
I think. I did 18 video tips. Yeah. But I want to do more. Yeah, go ahead.
Do they have to do with the concept of this healing practice that you're talking about that has actual science behind it, that's actually can be proven to help?
It's actually not. I did these video tips before I actually found that methodology and got certified. But there's a lot of overlap, of course. And the methodology, it basically teaches you tools. Like you do a lost history graph, and you do a relationship graph, and then you cull out undelivered communications and get to write those down and say goodbye to them. So you complete the relationship. So it's a different angle at it, but it's really very effective. It's like I said, it's been proven all over the world. It's very effective. So the combination of that, and these are just kind of everyday tips that people are dealing with and running into.
and everyday tips, yet seriously, when you think about, you're hearing the story of the person that the picture, and then it ties into another one. I love this one because we were doing it last night, and I'm like, ooh, I've got to watch this. So here we go.
Funny.
This is Susan. She chose to heal after losing her son in an auto accident. You can imagine Susan went through a period of time that was extremely difficult and frightening. My name is Barbara J. Hopkinson of A Butterfly's Journey to a New Normal. We help individuals and families struggling with grief to find a new normal after experiencing the loss of a child or other traumatic loss. The fact that you are experiencing something that you never thought would happen is exactly why it is normal to feel like Susan was feeling, and this is why we suggest using creative arts to help you heal. Being creative is both cathartic and healing, plus it's a channel for your emotions. When you allow yourself quiet time to draw, paint, write, sculpt, or create in any way, you promote stress reduction and healing. If you are able to let your creativity flow freely, you may be surprised at the results or how connected you feel to your loved one. We suggest to try this even if you don't think you are creative. We all are deep down. Some suggestions on the use of art to help you heal. Choose 2 or 3 creative hobbies you would like to try or get back to. Pick one, get the supplies, or sign up for a class in that art medium. Stick with it at least a few weeks or months to see if you like it, realizing that anything new is difficult at first. Remember, this is not about being great at what you're trying. It's about expressing yourself, reducing your stress, and healing. Creative arts is a powerful tool. It was for Susan as she chose to heal.
You can relate to that. You do a lot of creative arts, I think.
Yeah. Our group, our group has just started a Healing Through Art project ongoing. We're doing our first one, and we just did it last night in the group. And so I want to ask you,
Mm-hmm.
you have all these amazing tips, and we're going to share a few more, guys. And powerful expression, expressing the feelings, and you're sharing the name of the person in the picture. You're sharing a little bit about the person that there's grief attached to,
Mm-hmm.
or possibly a pet, whatever it may be. There might even be some others that you've taken pictures of. You yourself, you have experienced such, when I first talked to you the very first day, I don't know if I was when we were actually talking, but I know after I was done talking with you, I just started bawling. I was just thinking, I remember thinking, oh my goodness, what you have been
Sweet.
through, and just an admiration
Oh.
for the, and how inspiring that you could take that pain, that grief, what you've been through, and translate it into something that's going to change the world, like you were talking about for the volunteering.
Thank you.
When you had lost the one, and I want to just touch on this briefly because it's something that is important to you to share, and that is when you lost the miscarriage, you state that in the numbers, and when you talk about your loss, because you feel what?
The reason I include talking about the miscarriage as one of my children's loss, because people don't get to really get acknowledged or supported or grieve openly about when they lose a miscarriage, because they're fairly common and people don't think of it, as losing a person. But it is. Once you get pregnant, you're all excited. You're already thinking about what that's going to be like, especially if you already have children and you know what that bond is like. It's a big loss, and it should be allowed to have the same sort of status and support that other losses have, in my opinion.
I agree with you 100%. And that's why I wanted to bring that up. Then your next loss of your children, Robbie.
Yes.
Robbie, that was a difficult situation. Why don't you just share for a moment about Robbie?
Sure. I had Brent and Brad, no problems with the pregnancy, natural childbirth, everything was great. So I expected that with Robbie. And when I was like 6 months along, they did an ultrasound and realized that he only had one chamber in his heart. He had his liver was in the wrong place. He only had one kidney. He had shortened forearms and a cleft palate. And they said he's not going to make it. And they actually told me I should terminate. And then they sent me to a specialist who confirmed the diagnosis, some kind of a genetic freak thing at conception, and said I was 1 week too late. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm confused and I'm angry. It's got nothing to do with what I feel or what I want to do about religion or anything like that. I just was, how dare you tell me, what I've got to do. So anyway, they found a choice for me, and then I had to make a real choice. But my mother had gotten bad. She was told to terminate me, and they were wrong. And the pregnancy fixed her a problem she was having with her health. So I said, what if they're wrong? So I decided to go ahead, and even though they said he wouldn't make it, or if he did, it would be lots of surgeries, I thought, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And so I had to go through the next 2 or 3 months going to work every day and have people asking me, well, oh, when do you do? What is it? And then, but the worst part was having to come home. So he did tie internally, and I was on Pitocin for 2.5 days to deliver him because he couldn't help me. And then, but having to come home and tell his 6 and 4-year-old brothers that their little brother wasn't coming home, that was the hard part. That was the hardest part. And then we had a service and buried him the next morning.
So the one brother, he was younger. He was the younger of the two, the one that we have the picture here, Miss You.
Brad, yeah.
Brad. And
a handsome son.
Yes, he's extremely handsome. Proud mom, you can tell.
Oh, yeah. He's an accomplished chef. He has his own restaurant. I'm just very proud of him.
That's wonderful. That is just, hats off to him and to you. So when he remembers back, does he remember being 4 and hearing about Robbie? I
think he remembers a little bit of it. Probably not a lot of details because, we had to tell him. And then the next morning I did get to hold, my husband and I got to hold Robbie. But the next morning we had a little burial service at the grave. And, they were there, but I don't think he remembers a lot of it. Probably just, little bits,
Right. So now you have your other son. You had shared that he knew what he was going to do. He was on his way to his career.
He was driven.
Yeah, he was going to be, I think, of like a Top Gun type of person, right?
Well, it's interesting that you said that because that's the movie that inspired him. He wanted to be a pilot. That is exactly the movie that inspired him. He wanted to be a pilot, but he did not want to go into the Navy. So, but he decided, I think he had 1 year of local high school here in Massachusetts, and he was, starting to flunk science and have some difficulties, starting to smoke and drink a little bit, and we were on his case big time. And so he had just turned 15. He had just finished his freshman year in high school. He came home and he said, I've decided I want to be a pilot. I'm not good at providing my own structure. I want to go to military high school. I said, you want to do what? We've been threatening you with that, but we're serious.
You're going to take us up by the threat.
Okay. If you're willing, we're not going to spend your, we're going to spend your college money on your high school, not going to jeopardize your brother's college. Are you willing to help us get you through college? And he said, yes. So we started looking. We looked, he went through interviews. He chose the oldest, starkest one he could find. He moved out at 15 and went to New York Military Academy, the same school that Donald Trump went to high school at. And then he got a full scholarship out to Arizona State University. So he was on an Army ROTC scholarship. He was a junior there. He had already passed his written aviation test. He was just about to go for his last physical and get commissioned as an officer and commit 8 years to the Army. When they were going to breakfast after physical training one morning, and his buddy showed up with a brand new Rice Rocket motorcycle, and he was starting to get an interest. And we had flown out to Arizona to take, for his 21st birthday, to take him, he and his fiance, he was getting engaged as well. So to take him and his fiance, and the 5 of us went to Vegas for the weekend for his 21st birthday, made him promise not to get on a motorcycle without a helmet because there was no helmet laws out there. But the kid didn't bring a helmet with him. Oh, wow. And he thought he had a license, but he was really just starting to test drive motorcycles. And it was a Rice Rocket, very powerful, like I think a Honda 950 or something. Anyway, he lost control of it right on campus, and it ran into a loading dock wall, and it catapulted him. He landed 56 feet away on his head on a cement loading dock floor in front of the ASU Law Library without a helmet. And so they have their own police force. So they intubated him within a few minutes and rushed him to Scottsdale Trauma Center, but his brain swelled and choked out the oxygen for his brainstem. And so they pronounced him brain dead while we were in the air flying to Arizona. And we didn't know that. So we didn't know whether he was going to live or die when we were doing the 6-hour cross-country flight. Wow. Not fun.
No. So So you and the story continues, and it just continues for a while, and you ended up at a point where you were really struggling personally, weren't you?
Oh yeah. So yeah, we had his brother graduated high school the week he died. So we had his funeral and his wake, his funeral, Brent's wake and funeral, and Brad's graduation all in the same week. And then my husband we both struggled, but he really struggled and couldn't, decided to quit his job. And anyway, and I was worried about his health and things. But anyway, a year later, he left me. So my 30-year marriage fell apart a year after our son died. And that 1-2 punch, and my son was also kid crazy. So I felt the loss of grandchildren when he died. And so the combination of all those things and thinking about living alone for the first time and all that, I actually attempted suicide. But I did it in a way, just carbon monoxide, that gave me time to think. And it became a turning point for me because I realized I couldn't do that to my remaining son. And I called my sister. It was a trigger that day. Something had happened that just it just was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Right. And so luckily my sister answered the phone and I got out of there. And then what I did is that prompted me to start the Compassionate Friends of Greater Newburyport, which is a local chapter of a national organization that supports families after a child dies. And so we had our first meeting a week after the week of Brent's first anniversary, Angelversary, we call it. And I still run that local support group also.
So you have been what they call at rock bottom.
Yes.
And now you can actually look at anyone and say, I understand you. Yeah. You can get there too, because I know, because I have.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It takes a lot it's not fast. It takes hard work. It takes time. You really have to try and be open. I mean, in my first book, I finished it 10 years after Brent's death. And the last chapter was about the 3 most important things I learned. And one of them was trust your intuition on what you need and be open to trying new things, but don't worry too much about everybody's advice because they don't know, you know. Mm-hmm. And then the second thing was helping others help you heal, makes amazing difference. And the third thing was it's all about the love. And the love, it's just everything is based on love. The love does not end when death does not end the love. So, when I think of my sons now, one of the big turning points for me was when I stopped thinking of his life as a loss and I started thinking of it as a gift. And if I had the choice, do I do it over again and go through all that, or do I never have known him? I would do it over again in a heartbeat, because it was such a major. I mean, he was such a personality, and we had so much fun. So now when I think of him, I don't think of the pain of his dying. I think of doing front seats of roller coasters all day, or he talked me into doing a bungee jump one time,
Wow.
Yeah, he was I brought them up to be daredevils, and he was a daredevil. So we just had so much fun. I did mother-son trips, and that's what I think of when I think of him. And I thought, you know what? It could be like he's on the other side of the world, and I can't physically see him and touch him, but I can still feel him.
There you go, right there. If anybody is, and I can tell you that I concur. People that have passed, we say getting their wings. It's like you can feel them, their essence. And at times I think, I can almost feel like where they are, or their the energy. And so what a gift that is for those that believe that is possible. And so
I've got some pretty strong. If we have time, I'll tell you about one sign, because the one that's all right. So I had a friend who's a musician. She's not a medium, but she just had that ability to be able to. And he figured out that she could hear him and understand him. So she would be giving me messages, and she would come through with things like when she had no idea where I was, but she would give me a message that related to what I was doing. And I used to rent my house and move out in the summer, and so I hadn't unpacked. I was going to take a walk before I unpacked one summer, And I got this message from her. She had never been there, and said, "Brent says, be careful going up your front steps, Mom." And I went, okay. I was like used to getting messages now. So I walked back, and the entire length of the wooden step was cracked. If I had put my weight on it, I would have fallen and hurt myself. And I hadn't noticed it, and she had never been there. So that's, I want to write a book about signs that are hard to refute like that are really kind of physical, because there's no way she could have known.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's a whole nother discussion.
It is.
You know, and that's where, when, you know, and I will say I have witnessed this, and I don't know if anybody else has, and I'd love to hear from you guys and comment. And that is that oftentimes, like, there are those that are like, hooey. And then something will come through for them, and they're like, oh my goodness, there's no way of denying this one, because, you know, whatever it may be. So be careful to say hooey, because you never, you know, you never know what's going to happen.
I've got several.
Several.
I really do want to write. I'm talking to a friend Mitch, who did the video, introduced me to someone, and we are actually talking about doing a book related to signs.
I love it. I love it. Now, I asked you because this is the last day of Women's History Month, and this year the show has supported the idea of the fact that right now we are creating tomorrow's history for our youth. And the fact that you have dealt with so, you know, much the grief and grieving, I wanted to hear from you, and you did a clip. It's a wonderful clip in regards to how do we handle grieving when you have kids involved in the process one way or another. I want to share this, and then we're going to wrap up the show.
Hi, I'm Barbara J Hopkinson of A Butterfly's Journey, a nonprofit for resilience after loss. And my friend Tamara asked me to speak a little bit about grief as it relates to youth and our future generations. I've had a lot of losses, and I've learned to be resilient and understand very much about grief. But as I work with families to help them, I often see that the youth is kind of left out, and that can be dangerous. These kids are losing parents, grandparents, sometimes even siblings and friends. It's really tough on them. So we need to include them and really elevate the discussion overall about grief, not run away from it. So my advice for adults would be to get the youth in your circle involved in your discussions when you've lost someone, and let them vent. Let them, you know, really make sure they understand and help them understand. And for the youth, you should really step up and ask for help. Ask for support when you need it. Insist on talking about it. Write. Journal is very powerful. Reach out to friends. You can join online groups to talk about it. But the big thing is, do not isolate. And, you know, you're the leaders of our next generation. And you can help improve how we all deal with grief by setting an example and really encouraging open expression around grief, loss, and love. You know, our loved ones' spirits continue. They all do. And they are still with you. And they want you to find your hope and resilience and set a great example for others. So you take care and be resilient.
Be resilient. I love that. What wise counsel. And what I also got out of that was that many times we as adults, we think, protect our kids, yet we may not be serving them in a way that's going to really help them in the long run. And so what I was hearing also is be there and in an age appropriate way take, and help them through and encourage them to deal with this. And then in doing so, you're going to be setting our next generation, the next generations of patterns into in healthy ways. I absolutely appreciate that so very much.
That's good. The kids are not stupid. They know, they sense when something's wrong, and they feel bad about it, and you just don't want them to get off into depression that leads to all kinds of problems like addiction and all the kinds of things. So, yeah.
And how interesting. Yeah. Amazing stories. Thank you for sharing, Dr. Randy. Love you. So glad you're here with us today. So as we prepare to close the show, what would you like to leave, a nugget, something that you would like to leave us with as a thought? Because this subject matter, I don't know that there's anyone out there that hasn't been touched one way or another with some type of grief.
Everybody experiences grief. What I think I usually say is it's all about the love. Just keep that in your mind, right? Try to focus on the positive and the memories, and just know that love does not end when a life ends. And just really think about your loved ones, the time you had with them, as a gift, not just a loss.
I love it. So important. I want to thank you for coming on to the show today, and thank you for sharing your inspiring story, because it truly is. You have been through so much, and you have turned those experiences now into ways to help others to heal. And what beautiful memories. Now you've helped to, transition, like the butterfly. You've helped to transition some grief and experiences into something that's going to fly and have its own energy to then share going into the future. Because you think about some of those images that are down below you, and you think about, Miss You, you think about some of the other ones. When they had those up in their homes, they have them there on the coffee table book, and they can say, look at page number 47, that's me, or whatever it may be. Those are now the discussions and the memories, and then at some point the history, the family history, the personal history, that will be a legacy, and you are helping to create legacy. And that is truly a service hero trait.
Well, thank you so much.
A service hero. You are more than welcome.
Thank you. And I feel so blessed. I now have like 4 grandchildren under the age of 4, and they just light up my life. And I'm just so blessed. So.
Well, congratulations on that, Grandma, because what,
Nana.
I'm a Nana too, and so I can share,
Oh
Nana.
My goodness, look at this. I can't believe you already had that ready to go.
Yeah, Nana is like the best word in the world, may I say.
It is. That's Brent Willow and Soraya, and then Charlie is not in there, but he's just 2 months old. Well, he's not in that picture.
And Charlie too.
Thank you. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. I can't believe you anticipated that.
You're welcome. Well, you got to look at what the future brings.
Yeah.
And you have you have a beautiful future that is here today in the present.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing this today with us, Barbara, and to all of you that have been with us today. I hope that you've been well served, and that you have been inspired, and that if you know of anybody that needs to watch this show, please share it with them, because truly there is so much healing that can be taking place when we share the love. We'll be back on Friday.
Thank you so much, Tamara.
Bye-bye.